America, we are back, baby. Welcome to another episode of America Unfiltered with James Pascalides. Closer to finally being healed here. We are no closer to any answers on this Epstein stuff, though. We do have one big development that happened over the weekend, but I'm going to tell everyone why we should take that with a grain of salt. Ghislaine Maxwell is now filing an appeal to now testify about Exhibit 52. We've talked about Exhibit 52. Ghislaine has claimed that she was suppressed from being able to testify, that she was silenced. She is now claiming that she wasn't given due process. I doubt Ghislaine understands due process the same as the liberals. Most of them don't understand what due process is. But, it is pretty interesting when you actually read the transcript of the case. Ghislaine was silenced in a lot of it, and when they tried to talk about Exhibit 52, a lot of the names were redacted from the transcript of the case due to privacy concerns, they said. Ghislaine is saying she wants to testify and give the entire Epstein client list to Congress in return for a lightened sentence. I want to remind everyone, I know we're running the Free Ghislaine movement, and obviously she saw that, and that's why she's doing this, but I want to remind everyone that Ghislaine is not going to kill herself, that next week, she most likely will, but she won't actually. You guys know what I mean. Ghislaine will never kill herself. Someone is going to kill her, and they're going to make it seem like she killed herself, and next week we're going to be hearing about how Ghislaine has been suicidal for months, and that there was no chance she was actually going to testify, that was just conjecture. But we'll find her hanging in her cell. We'll find her OD'd on whatever medicine she's taking in jail. We'll find her choking on whatever dinner she had, or a possible heart attack, because we know that the CIA invented a weapon to give people heart attacks, and that was declassified in the 70s. We know that weapons exist, that they can take someone's life and make it look like an accident. We know time and time again they have continuously taken high-profile people's lives and made it look like accidents, made it look like we're conspiracy theorists for calling it out. But that's what's about to happen. Ghislaine Maxwell is about to be murdered in prison, and they're going to tell us that it was a suicide. So next week, when you see Ghislaine Maxwell dead, hanging in her cell, and you see people saying that it was all, it was going to happen. She was spending the next 20 years of her life in jail. She had to kill herself. She was sad, all these things. None of them are true. She did not kill herself. She will not kill herself. And if she does kill herself, we know who did it. It was Mossad. It was the people who are still out there, the people who are still trying to protect Jeffrey Epstein. And if for some reason she does testify, if I'm wrong, that maybe she doesn't hang herself, maybe this could be a different kind of setup. No matter what, this is not going to go down how we think it's going to, or how they're saying it's going to go down. It is either going to be she will not make it into the Congress room because she will kill herself before she gets in, or in the other scenario, if she does not do that, she will testify, but it will be a load of shit. And you want to know why? Because this bitch works for Mossad. If she was to testify, why would she give up things that would violate their operation, that would expose their operation? Her and Jeffrey Epstein were doing this for a foreign nation, for a foreign intel agency, to try and compromise high-profile politicians, academia elites, Hollywood elites, etc. So when you have a foreign nation running a blackmail scheme in our country, and, pretty much the pimp or the head of the blackmail operation is now saying they want to testify because evidence was suppressed earlier and they think they can get a lighter sentence after Trump just suppressed the client information. You can't trust anything she says. As much as I don't want her to hang herself next week and I want her to make it into Congress to hear what she has to say, because it will be one of the most televised and watched events since OJ fucking chopped his wife's head off. But I can't think anything she'll say is true. I can't think that, and even if she does give a little bit of true information, she's going to throw false information in there. She's going to lie. She is going to do what Mossad does. They are an intel agency. They are known to be deceptive. The entire point of the CIA, Mossad, intel agencies, you can't be a part of them unless you're good at lying, unless you're good at decepting, unless you could literally beat a lie detector test. So if she could beat a lie detector test, what makes you think she can't beat the dumbasses who are in Congress questioning her? She could run circles around these fucking idiots because they can't get anybody to give a straight answer about anything. AOC could sit there and yell at her all she wants with her whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's terrible. It's not going to do anything. Jasmine Crockett can mutter under her breath and utter delusional nonsense all she wants. It is not going to help. You could even have the good people in Congress questioning her, and it's still not going to do anything. Because why? Because she is Mossad. She is going to lie. If she even makes it to the congressional floor, nothing she says will be able to be trustworthy. Why? Would you trust a pedophile? Would you trust someone who has raped kids? Would you trust someone who has facilitated in passing these children along to high-profile billionaires, especially a woman who took little girls and passed them to these men? No, so why the fuck are they even considering this? No, let that bitch rot in jail. Actually, no, free her. Like I said earlier, she's innocent. But, I mean, all jokes aside, let that bitch rot in jail, give her the death penalty. It's absurd that, I don't know, it's absurd that anyone is even taking this as like, oh my god, Ghislaine's gonna blow the whistle on everybody. No, Ghislaine's about to get her head fucking blown off in jail. Ghislaine's about to be hanging from the top bunk in her cell. Ghislaine is about to be dead next week because she just said she's gonna testify. Like, literally every single girl who testified against Jeffrey Epstein and these high-profile billionaires all ended up killing themselves. And yes, you can make the argument that people who get raped are more likely to commit suicide. But it's also likely, and it's also extremely crazy to think that every single one of them did it. Or it's not likely, it's crazy to think that every one of them did. And it is likely that there was involvement by intel agencies or by people who just made it look like they killed themselves. We know it's possible. We know our government's capable of it, and the intel agencies are capable of making it look like people committed suicide. It has been proven. They want us to believe, I don't know. I mean, our government just thinks we're stupid, and it's very clear. They wanted us to believe that JFK was a lone shooter, even though there was like 7 or 8 different, entry and exit holes of the bullets. They wanted us to believe that Israel had no involvement, even though it was right after he wanted to inspect the Dimona project when Israel was not supposed to be building nuclear weapons. They wanted us to believe things about Benghazi that they had no idea that it was happening, even though they sent our troops and our contractors into a nation we weren't supposed to be in. And then when they were calling for help, calling for medics and air support, they were left to die. And then when they lived through it all, they were suppressed on telling their stories. But no, our government doesn't want us to believe any of that. They want us to believe that after 9/11, after 2 buildings collapsed and 2 planes exploded into these buildings, going through them, killing thousands of people and killing it was one of the most devastating attacks in American history. And they want us to believe that they were able to find the 2 passports of the hijackers the next day, down the block, that, passports are somehow, fireproof and a building fucking collapsing on them proof. How they just somehow unscathed were able to find the passports of the terrorist attackers. Like this is shit where it's like, okay, how dumb does our government think we are? They wanted us to believe that Edward Snowden was guilty and that we should have been prosecuting him and that he was guilty of treason and that people exposing the government for corrupt things are bad. Like, we were told to believe so many corrupt things, so many crazy things. Our government wants to continuously lie to us. Our government wants to make us believe like we're these conspiracy theorists when they're the ones who are obviously hiding things from us. And this Epstein thing is no different. They wanted us to believe that there was a lone gunman in Vegas, but there are multiple videos showing that there are multiple shooters and that people are, dead a mile down the road being shot. And they just, I don't know, they want us to believe all these crazy conspiracies, or they want us to believe that we're conspiracy theorists over all these things, but the evidence is overwhelming that our government is guilty. The evidence is overwhelming that our government is not only protecting people on behalf of other nations, but it is infiltrated by other nations. That our government is lying to the American people blatantly to protect themselves. That they do not have the best interests of the American people in mind, and we have lost the entire basis of what this country was founded on. That they could say, oh, we still have the Constitution, you still have freedom of speech, look, you're speaking out against us right now. Okay, but I don't have power the same way that the people used to have the power. The people in America held the power over the government, and that's what made this government and this country great. But then lobbying and other foreign nations and lifelong alliances with foreign nations have destroyed that. They've made it impossible for the American dream to be a reality. And I'm not talking about the American dream of signing an HB1 visa and taking an American job. I'm talking about the American dream of living in a country where your government supports you, where your government is doing everything they can and keeping your best interest in mind. The role of the government is to work for the American people and support the American people or the American taxpayer, to make our dollar worth more, not worth less, to make our jobs better, to make our lives better. But no, our government is currently doing what they can to limit our ability to communicate with each other over social media. They are censoring people. They're lying to us. They're protecting pedophiles. They are protecting foreign nations who have possibly infiltrated our government, infiltrated our society, and have literally killed one of our presidents. They have, I mean, the evidence to show that Mossad or Israel was involved in the assassination of JFK is extremely overwhelming. The evidence to show that, I don't know, I mean, there's extreme evidence to show that the Dimona Project and the inspection of the nuclear facilities was the real reason JFK was shot, and that the Italian and Jewish mafia in the United States teamed up together with Israel Mossad to get this done. This has been well documented. There have been multiple people who have attested to this as well, and a lot of people in the mob, as shy as they get about certain things in the media, they haven't been shy about this specific topic. There have been people in the mafia who have came forward to say that the mob was the one responsible for JFK's hit, and it was the Jewish mafia who was related to Mossad, which was Meyer-Lansky, when they were literally funneling weapons to Mossad and to Israel during World War II. These are all documented things, all things you could look up. Meyer-Lansky was a protected CIA asset as well. He was able to get away with laundering and stealing millions of dollars just because he helped protect the ports of the United States during World War II from German soldiers. He was, like I said, one of the heads of the Jewish mafia. He was recognized by La Cosa Nostra, the Italian mafia. But there's a ton of conspiracy theories that they want to say, yeah, you guys are the conspiracy theorists. You're the Tower 7 people. You're wrong about all this. And they're adding Epstein to that list now. They are making it seem like we're crazy about this. And I'm not going to keep talking about Epstein all day. I've been talking about Epstein all week. I really want to talk about the Ghislaine side of this and Ghislaine testifying. I mean, it is one of the biggest, it's possibly going to be one of the biggest scandals on top of the Epstein thing to happen. We're going to either see Ghislaine get murdered next week, and they're going to tell us that she killed herself because they're not going to be able to say that they blatantly murdered her. Or we're going to see Ghislaine get up in front of Congress and lie and possibly link either people she's enemies with, people Israel's enemies with, because like I said, she is Mossad. So if they allow her to go testify, she is basically testifying on behalf of Israeli intelligence to do whatever they want. They could say, hey, say these things. And guess what? She works for them and with them. She is going to say those things. So if they say, hey, I want you to make these people look guilty, even though they had nothing to do with it, make these people look guilty. And same thing, if they say, I want you to cover this up for these people, that's what's going to happen. You cannot take anything Ghislaine says next week with a grain of salt. You can't take it as true. Like I said, because she is Mossad. She is Israeli intelligence. She is as corrupt as it gets. Everyone who is hiding this right now is as corrupt as the people who did it. And Ghislaine, Prince Andrew, Jeffrey Epstein, Ehud Barak, Leon Black, all the people, the higher ups who, the names we know of who were possibly, doing these pedophile activities, we need a full investigation into what actually happened and third-party investigations outside of just Ghislaine Maxwell testifying to it and outside of Pam Bondi, who seems to be one of the most corrupt people in Trump's cabinet, testifying to it. Because we have Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, as we talked about last week, now talking about resigning from the FBI over the release of this information. They're saying that Pam Bondi released the information too early, that she didn't have all the information, and that she hid files from it. Apparently, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and Pam Bondi all got in screaming matches at the White House. Dan Bongino was given a leave of absence. They didn't release much about Kash Patel, but they're both talking about now resigning from the FBI over this. I think Pam Bondi should be the one resigning. I mean, Pam Bondi, if she resigned, they would probably just put in someone new in her place who would be just as corrupt. But it is one of the most corrupt things happening in front of our eyes. The fact that she dropped the bribery charges against Pfizer last week is absurdly corrupt right in front of our eyes. The fact that she's covering up Epstein and still she's doubling down on everything she said in the last week and covering up everything she said months ago. She said the files were on her desk. And then last week she said, oh, I misspoke. And now she's continuously doubling down on that this week, saying, yeah, there's no reason to look into anything I said before because it's possible I misspoke. I misspeak all the time. That's a really dumb thing to say as the Attorney General. You have a lot of responsibility to speak clearly and concisely to the American people. And if you are messing up in your speech all the time and you are messing up with the delivery of your message and it's constantly being delivered and interpreted as something different, and we are now seeing the biggest political scandal in our lifetime, that's not okay. And now this falls on you. You are now not suspect number one in the rape, but you're suspect number one in the cover-up. Why the fuck is Pam Bondi behind this? Why does she think it's okay to lie to the American people after months of pushing that she was going to be part of the most transparent administration of all time? One of the biggest differences I see in the conservative and liberal bases, not even politicians, because obviously we see with the politicians, a lot of them are just as corrupt as the last one. It doesn't matter what side they're on. But one of the biggest differences I've seen in the sides through this whole Epstein cover-up is the accountability conservatives take versus liberals. So when Joe Biden's son was smoking crack on video and, driving like 150 miles an hour while smoking crack, when he was fucking hookers on business dollars, which is illegal, when he was laundering money, when he was taking bribes from Ukraine and Russia, when he was doing all the corrupt things, and they were hiding the Hunter Biden laptop story, and Joe Biden was hiding his dementia, and just all the corruption. I could go on for a while about the corruption in the Biden White House, but through all that, you didn't see the major, liberal media platforms. You didn't see any of the major liberal influencers or most of the base in general. You didn't see them speak out against it. You saw them constantly blame Trump and blame the Republicans. They said that it's the Republicans creating this narrative, that it's not true, that it's what we said Russia hoax, the Russiagate hoax was, where they said Trump, where Hillary was pushing Russian, or that Trump used the Russia to win the 2016 election or whatever, and it was all found out to be Hillary who was pushing the information. They were behind the Russian disinformation, all that. So it was pretty much the exact same as that, but now you're seeing liberals, they're freaking out as they're saying, oh, look, the Trump base is splitting up, like they're celebrating it like it's a win. But no, we're just not being hypocrites. When our president fucks up, when our side fucks up, we call it out. And yes, there are some people who have been holdouts, and I will call them out, and I have called them out. But the majority of the MAGA base or the Trump base is splitting up right now. You see people outraged about this. I even thought that Charlie Kirk was one of the people who was going to shill for Trump past this because he was quiet on it for a couple of days. But even Charlie Kirk is now speaking out against it. You have Matt Walsh speaking out against it, Tucker Carlson, you have Megyn Kelly, pretty much in, all of Turning Point USA, Turning Point Action. You obviously have Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, that side of the aisle speaking out against it, Candace Owens. The only one person on the conservative side, or there's maybe a couple, there's Mark Levin, there is Ben Shapiro. I've talked about that. Fuck you, Ben Shapiro. You are defending a pedophile very openly, even while other people in your company are speaking out against it. And I'm sure Matt Walsh will be fired soon, the same as you fired Candace Owens for asking questions, or told Nick Fuentes that you would never do business with him because he was asking questions. You can't just get rid of people's right to free speech because you don't like what they're saying, and because Ben Shapiro wants to defend Israel more than he wants to defend America. If he thinks that the overwhelming evidence that shows that Jeffrey Epstein was Mossad is not enough evidence, then Ben Shapiro has no place giving his opinion to anybody because he's obviously fucking dumb. And I know he's not dumb. I know he's extremely high IQ and smart because I've watched him talk. He's actually someone I've admired a lot of my life and tried to model a lot of how I learned how to debate after. But it is sad to see someone I admired literally shilling for a country that does not have our best interest in mind, literally putting Mossad's interest over the United States' interest, and making it seem like Jeffrey Epstein or Sir King Jeffrey Epstein and Queen Ghislaine are just innocent victims in all this, and that, the real predators and the real terrible people in this are the people who are trying to prosecute them. People who are trying to hold them accountable because obviously they were innocent according to fucking Ben Shapiro. He is such a shill, such an asshole for this. It's so insane. And like I said, you'll see Matt Walsh either leave the company or get fired in the next few months over this. Daily Wire has been losing money for a little bit, as much as they love the company. Ever since they lost Candace Owens and Brett Cooper, it was clear that there were some issues within the company that they had to fix, and it's clear that those issues have not been fixed now that you're seeing a divide between Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro over these Epstein things. Matt Walsh is an American patriot who won't let these things go. He obviously has been limited in some of his speech regarding Israel. You could see that in his videos when he doesn't talk about the Israel lobby the same way a lot of the people who have left the Daily Wire have. But this is, this is what Matt Walsh is. Matt Walsh is brutally honest. He's satirical. He's not like overly into one, like his main subject he talks about is woke identity, politics, and DEI over anything. He hasn't been like overly big into foreign relations and things like that. So it's not crazy to think that he doesn't talk about it a lot, but I'm sure we will over the next few weeks see him start to talk about it more and more as we start to see this divide between Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh really take place. I think it's going to be one of the best things for Matt Walsh if he is able to leave the Daily Wire and separate himself from Ben Shapiro through this. I'm not sure if that will even happen. I just hope it does because, like I said, I think Matt Walsh is actually extremely talented at this, very smart, and I think he's limited with what he can say at the Daily Wire the same way that Candace Owens and Brett Cooper were really limited with what they were able to say and why they wanted to leave. I can't stand that conservatives and liberals react to these things so differently, that liberals will see their side, they'll see their side mess up so bad and they won't take any accountability. They'll actually defend it. They will go to bat for those people time and time again. And then when conservatives are speaking out against the people who are doing bad things, that liberals still have a problem with that. And it's crazy that they can't see how hypocritical and how dumb they are because of that, but it's just one of those things where it's like, have some common sense. Did a fucking coconut hit you on the head or what's happening? Like, why would you be upset that we're speaking out against pedophilia? Why would you be upset that we're speaking out against these issues? And why wouldn't you speak out against these issues? The only reason Democrats want the Epstein list released is because they want to prove that they think Trump's a pedophile, which it's very possible that Trump's on the list with the escalation of, them refusing to release it. But the fact that that's their only motivation is pretty sickening. The fact that the motivation is not wanting to just stop pedophilia and stop the protection of high-up billionaires, political elites, because of, intel agency connections, that should be the real motive. And the fact that it's not just shows you everything you need to know about their party and everything you need to know about them. They don't have Americans' interest in mind. They have their party's interest in mind. They have their donors' interest in mind and their lobbyists' interest in mind. We've talked about how lobbying is one of the biggest problems in this country. It was another thing they talked about at the Student Action Summit. The Turning Point Student Action Summit, it happens every single year. Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action is Charlie Kirk's companies that he started. Some of the big speakers they had were Megyn Kelly, Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson. They had debates there as well. But they talked about the Israel lobby. They talked about Epstein. They talked about a lot of crazy stuff. And during the Israel part, a lot of people actually left. So Tucker Carlson went on they had multiple conversations about Israel. Let me start at the beginning. Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk sat down together to talk about Israel and the United States' relationship, specifically regarding Mossad and Epstein and things like that. I urge everyone to go on YouTube and watch this clip. You will never see two people dance around a topic more in your life than this. You've never seen two people want to just say, oh my God, Israel's guilty, and say that without saying it. Like, that's what this clip was. They obviously both take a lot of money from Jewish funding and from, Israeli funding. And they have to be pretty careful with what they say if they want to keep their lobbyists and their donors happy, if they want to keep the money flowing for their companies and for their foundations, etc. And you have never seen them more perplexed in a conversation. Literally, they were like, yeah, like, I love Israel, as much as I love them, we have to admit, like, this is bad. And then same thing with Tucker Carlson. Like, Tucker Carlson and Charlie Kirk had a similar conversation. And Tucker was like, like, if Israel did this, like, what I would say? I would just say, it's okay, but, like, just don't do it again. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's okay. They allowed someone in their agency, in their intel agencies, to fuck kids around the world and implicate high up billionaires, politicians, elites all around the world. That's just okay. Don't do it again to you, Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk, and Megyn Kelly. The fuck are you guys talking about? Like, I get the sentiment of what you guys are trying to say. You're trying to criticize Israel and criticize Mossad without directly criticizing Israel because you guys take a fuck ton of money from Israeli donors. But at a point, you just have to say, fuck your donors. I have enough people in America who support me at this moment. Charlie Kirk has a cult-like following in America of young voters. And if he said fuck all his donors and only took, individual donations, he would make less money, but he would still make a substantial amount of money, and he wouldn't have to shill for a country that is actively trying to hurt us. And no, Israel is not bad in every way, but it is very clear that Israel does not have the United States' best interest in mind. And I'll even take it a step further. They're saying, like, Tucker Carlson says, if they did it, like, just admit it, apologize for it, and say you won't do it again. Like, fuck that. Like, if we were to find out with definitive evidence, and I know we have overwhelming evidence to show, but if we were able to prove it with overwhelming definitive evidence, with no chance of being wrong, that Mossad was the one who orchestrated this, and Israel was the one who orchestrated this, and Israel not only knew about it, but protected Epstein, they protected Ghislaine, they protected Ehud Barak, they protected these people, I would call for war with Israel. I would call for the United States to go to war with Israel. And everyone could say, oh, they're our biggest ally, blah, blah, blah. They're a nuclear power. Fuck that. I would say let's take out the entire country in one fucking day. I would say we give the citizens time to either evacuate or whatever they want to do, but we eliminate the entire government, their entire military, and anyone who doesn't leave within a 12-hour period. Because why the fuck would we allow another country to invade our to violate our sovereignty, to invade our nation, and to literally allow pedophilia to run rampant around the world, to allow kids to get molested and be used as pawns in their fucking game against the United States and politicians in the United States? That's something I'm not okay with. If any country in the world was to do that, I would say let's go to war with them. And the fact that our biggest ally is doing it, it's definitely let's go to fucking war if that's what happened. No one else is going to be saying this besides very few people, but it's what should happen. If we were able to definitively prove that they were trying to infiltrate, or they were trying to get United States politicians, academia professors, Hollywood elites, and they were trying to use it as a blackmail operation on our soil, a foreign nation, a foreign intel agency, that is a call for war, and anyone who doesn't see it that way is dumb. It is so crazy that all this is happening. The timeline of when it's happening is insane. The fact that it's happening in the first 6 months of Trump's, presidential run, it can mean a few different things. Like I talked about, it could be them trying to get it out of the way early. They knew they were going to do this all along, and they just wanted to get it out of the way. So by like year 3, we weren't talking about it. It could be, because of everything going on with Israel. If this is something involving Israel and Trump is scared that he'll be implicated, even if he wasn't fucking these kids, maybe he's in the documents in some other way that the media is going to completely smear his name. Whatever the situation is, maybe he's scared to release it. And Israel Netanyahu, in his strong relationship there, he's convinced him not to. We literally saw in the same time span that they released this info and the bullshit edited video, which is crazy that the video was edited and they're not talking about that. But the video was edited. But at the same time that all that happened, Netanyahu was staying at the White House for not 1, not 2, but 4 fucking nights in D.C., staying and having private meetings with Donald Trump. We also saw the, Israeli-United States relationship really flourish when Donald Trump decided to violate everything he ran on and decided to have a new war, and he decided to bomb Iran with bunker-busting bombs. It's all pretty wild, the timing of what it seems like. It seems like Israel has something on Trump. It seems like either Israel donors or lobbyists, like we've talked about, Miriam Adelson, along with other Israeli donors, gave him hundreds of millions of dollars. It seems like it's possible he's on the Epstein files, which could be what Israel has over Trump as well. But whatever it is, it seems like Israel has something over Trump, because right now, definitive or overwhelming evidence shows that Epstein was Mossad, that Donald Trump and Pam Bondi are the ones protecting him. So they're protecting Mossad, protecting Israel, and they also literally sent United States resources to control Iranian airspace and to defend Israeli airspace and to drop bunker-busting bombs on 36-hour missions on Iran. And they're now talking about going and doing it again. They gave more bunker buster bombs to Israel so they can do it on their own. They can now bomb the shit out of Iran whenever they want, and the United States can be blamed, and we can be pulled into this regime change war that they've wanted the whole time. And we're also going to be bombing them more ourselves. This is something I talked about literally once the bombs dropped, that, yeah, they're claiming the war's over, the 12-day war, whatever the fuck they want to call it. But no, it's not. We'll see more bombs in a few months, because what they actually wanted was regime change. They didn't give a shit about the nuclear facility. The nuclear facility, while it was active, it was barely enriching uranium. We had Tulsi Gabbard testify to this, and then literally you saw she had to change her statement and retract it because Donald Trump and her administration made her. This is where you see the Israel lobby owning Donald Trump. When Donald Trump is saying Tulsi Gabbard's wrong and Mossad's correct, like, what the fuck is that? Is that the American president talking or the Israel prime minister? And then literally, as I want to get back into the Student Action Summit, because I was talking about that and then I got off in this tangent, but during the Student Action Summit, as Tucker Carlson, as Charlie Kirk and Megyn Kelly are saying these things, you have the former Israeli prime minister, what was it, like Naftali Bennett or something. He tweeted out that Epstein was not Mossad, that Tucker Carlson was anti-Semitic for saying any of that. And it's like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it is so, again, the evidence is overwhelming. Tucker sent him an invite to come onto his podcast. It's not clear whether he responded. I hope he does, because that would be a very interesting interview to see Tucker actually question the former prime minister of Israel on all his connections with Ehud Barak, with Carbine 911, with Leon Black, with Ghislaine Maxwell and Robert Maxwell. I mean, again, the connections are just so overwhelming. It's more clear he was Mossad than he was actually even a fucking person. Everything points to him being Mossad. Everything points to him being intelligence. And maybe the United States intelligence and CIA knew about it, but it's clear that he was intelligence. It's clear that Israel and Mossad were running a blackmail operation where they were trying to get high-profile billionaires, high-profile elites, academia professors, and Hollywood elites to rape these kids on the island, video and record it, and then get whatever they wanted out of them. You know, donate to my political cause, push this law through, ignore this crime, do this, whatever the fuck it was. But it's just crazy to think that a guy who was a fucking high school teacher then worked his way up to a partner at Bear Stearns after being an assistant and then became a billionaire out of nowhere and no one can track his money, that there's not a further investigation into this, that there's not actual answers. And it just all screams intel agencies. It all screams everything we've been saying. Like I have said over the last week, I haven't stopped saying this. They're going to keep calling us conspiracy theorists over this. They're going to tell us that we are the new Tower 7 people, that we are the new 9/11 passport people, that we are the new Vegas shooting people, we are the Benghazi and the JFK file people, we are the people who are pushing for answers that we're not supposed to have, and the people they're going to want to silence, the people they're going to call racist, the people that they're going to make up names to try and silence. These are the problems in this country. We need a country that has the values of America, has the values of the American founders, putting the power in the people's hands, where the people are not being controlled by a tyrannical government or a government that's controlled by intel agencies. Our government right now is literally controlled by AIPAC, BlackRock, and pedophiles, and it is one of the most disgusting things. That's going to be the title of this episode today, AIPAC, BlackRock, and pedophiles, because they're what control this nation. They literally run America. They fund 80% of all of our politicians. They all agree on 85% of all the big issues, and they divide us on 15% of the issues. And yes, those 15% are important, but it's insane of the 85% of things that most Americans don't talk about that I've been talking about, like the replacement of the American worker, like the fact that we allow these corporations to absolutely abuse slave labor in this country. These aren't things that are talked about in the media. They'll talk about illegal immigration and they'll talk about legal immigration, but they'll never mention the actual problems. They'll never mention that our founders were American nationalists who pictured an American nationalist society. They'll never mention any of these things because it's not what they're trying to accomplish. Right now, the media is owned, the politicians are owned, and we need to restructure this government. We need to restructure this country and restructure the political parties, because the two-party system, the Republicans and Democrats, are, like I said, it's basically one party working against the American people to divide us on 15% of all the issues, when the other 85% is really more important. It's the fact that we're not able to afford homes, that they have overwhelming interest rates on credit cards, on student loans, and on these things. Tucker Carlson literally talked about someone he knows having a 40% interest rate on a credit card, one of his friend's kids, and he was like, let's go get guns and get the money back. And you heard the crowd laugh, and he was literally like, no, I'm kind of serious. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, obviously, I'm not saying we should just go shoot someone, but he's like, this is the shit our founders would have stood up against. They put a 2% tax on tea and they stood up against it. A 40% interest rate on credit card. And yes, you can make the argument that they're signing up for it, but they're pushing this shit on kids. They're pushing these student loans are one of the only loans a kid can get. If a kid wants to go get $100,000 to start a business, the chance of him being able to get it at 18 years old is slim and none without having extremely rich parents to have collateral to put up. But a kid can go get $250,000 to put himself in school, which he might drop out of, because 50% of the kids who end up going to fucking college end up dropping out. College has become a scam in the sense of most of the majors don't need to exist. It's way too expensive, and they're pushing woke ideologies, and half the classes are not even necessary. Why do you need to do gen ed shit you learned in high school and pay for it? Why are all your textbooks written and sold by Robert Maxwell's company? No one fucking questions that literally a Mossad CIA agent, his company, writes and sells all the textbooks. But no, none of that matters. None of that wants to be questioned. It's crazy how many different weird woke things tie back to Mossad, tie back to Robert Maxwell and Epstein. I think Tucker Carlson gave one of the best breakdowns at the Student Action Summit. I like Charlie Kirk's and Megyn Kelly's, but like I said, it was watching like two awkward people not want to call out the elephant in the room. They were both trying to address the issue without actually addressing the elephant in the room, which is Israel. They are the ones who are the problem in this scenario, because they are the ones who run Mossad. And if Mossad was running a blackmail operation in our country, that's a war call. I mean, that's something that we should be going to war over. And I hope that's not true, but it is true. It is what happened. It is overwhelming evidence that Epstein was Mossad, and that Ghislaine is Mossad, and that her dad was Mossad and was literally just thrown off a boat and murdered. When they criticized Israel during the Student Action Summit, you saw hundreds of people walk out. Most likely some of their donors, most likely some of the Israeli students, most likely people of that nature. But it's important that truth comes out, no matter what the topics are. Like I said, it's so weird to have people like Ben Shapiro, who were like truth absolutists for a long time and would like call out the truths on such absurdities that people were afraid to talk about. He would talk about crime and black culture when people were afraid to talk about it. He would talk about importations of people with HB1 visas replacing American jobs. He would even talk about the devaluation of the American dollar and why it's happening because of overprinting dollars, things they just don't talk about in the media. But now he's protecting Epstein, and it's so odd to see that Ben Shapiro acting like such a little asshole, again, like, I deserve the right to insult him now. Anyone who protects a pedophile is just as bad as a pedophile. God's children are not for sale. I really think anyone who watched the movie Sound of Freedom is just as pissed off about this Epstein thing as me. Sound of Freedom, like I've talked about, is one of those brutally... It's a great movie, and it's just so brutal to watch, though, because it's like you're watching these kids. You don't watch them get molested, but you know it's happening. You hear screams. You see the methods they use to lure these girls and boys out there, and how they transport them, and how it's not like they're just like selling these kids. Even if it was once a week, that would be awful. They're selling these kids 20 times a night. Like, it is disgusting what the sex trafficking trade is. It's one of the most lucrative businesses in the entire world. And the fact that Mossad ran a sex trafficking ring pretty much, within United States soil and involving United States politicians, it is a direct act of war. And the fact that our government is letting it go, the fact that we're doing bidding for Israel, we're doing favors for Israel after it, just upsets me. Goes against everything that America first means. When Donald Trump ran in 2016 and 2020, he was self-funded. He didn't take money from anybody, so he was able to he was able to say these things, and he was able to speak out against these things. And then when he took money in 2024, and he took hundreds of millions of dollars, more than most politicians do. I think Kamala has spent a pretty equal amount in a few months, but still, we're not talking about her. those come with favors. They come with, having to bomb Iran. They come with having to cover up Epstein. They come with having to let Pfizer off of bribery charges and all these things that we're now seeing, all the corrupt things that are happening right in front of our eyes. And they're now throwing things out there, like they're talking about the Biden auto pen scandal. Like there's new information that, the pardons on Fauci and the last minute pardons on his family, that Biden had nothing to do with them, and that it was all the auto pen. But like, we already knew all this fucking information. We knew that the auto pen existed. We knew that there was corruption. We knew everything they were doing. So why is it that they're telling us this now? Why is the timing of everything that's happened over the last 2 months like so weird? Why is it? Here, sorry, one sec. Like, why is it over the last 2 months, it went from Donald Trump and his administration seemingly doing almost everything correct to now them not being able to fucking guess the color of the sky or grass? Like, they cannot do anything correct right now. Literally dropping the bribery charges, the Epstein thing, the handling of the Iran-Israel situation, the communication of the American people over the status of amnesty, saying you're not going to give amnesty, but then quietly saying that you're going to be giving millions of visas, which is essentially the same fucking thing, replacing American workers. Sorry about this again. I don't know what's going on with my throat today. But it's not what we voted for. We voted for the mass deportation of the invasion Joe Biden allowed. We didn't vote for the replacement of the American worker. We voted for the release of the Epstein information. We didn't vote for the burial of it. We didn't vote for Mossad to essentially run our government, but that's what it seems. I'm more convinced that Mossad is running our government than Donald Trump is actually running our government right now. And everyone is afraid to speak out against the Israel lobby. Everyone's afraid to speak out against Israel and Mossad. But like I said, I'm not. I'm calling for war with them if we find out that all that is true. If all the things that I've been saying over the last week have been true, then I want the United States to go to literal war with Israel. And I want us to actually almost eliminate the country. I want us to eliminate their government at the very least. If we're not eliminate the country, again, it's not the people and citizens' fault. It is their government and their agencies' fault who are supporting it. So we need to eliminate that. And again, I think we should give all the citizens a period of time to leave the country. Because like I said, it's not the citizens of Israel's fault. It's not their fault that their government is so fucking corrupt, that their intel agencies are running pedophile rings around the nation and then trying to bury them and then literally killing girls who were raped and had their lives already ruined, just killing those girls because they're testifying one by one. And then Virginia Roberts, the most famous one, literally after saying she's not going to kill herself, getting hit by a bus, and then fucking killing herself a week after, saying she wasn't going to kill herself again after they tried to kill her with the bus. It's just one of the most corrupt things. They're doing it right in front of our eyes. But when you see Ghislaine Maxwell hanging in her cell next week, I want everyone to tune back in here and give this video a like, because I fucking called it. Ghislaine Maxwell is either going to be dead hanging in her cell next week, and if she's not, then she is the one running this entire operation, because she will be lying to the American people. If they let her get into that congressional floor and let a word get out of her mouth, you will know for a fact that she is lying and that she is the one behind all this. She is behind most of the murder. She is the one who has her hand in Trump's pocket. She is the one controlling the entire situation, because there's no way this bitch gets to the fucking floor and gets to say a word unless she is behind it all. It just does not make sense. And for anyone having a problem with me calling her a bitch because she's a woman or whatever, this woman fucked kids. This woman raped children. She passed children along to high-profile billionaires and elites. So yes, I have no problem calling her a bitch or calling her anything else. I should call her much worse. She is one of the worst people to ever exist. The devil in some ways could probably be better than her. It is absurd that Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Prince Andrew, Ehud Barak, Leon Black, Bill Clinton, possibly Donald Trump, and all these people are allowed to walk around the world, walk around the earth right now, minus Jeffrey Epstein, and not have like pending investigations into them, not have open investigations every single day with dedicated teams of agents looking into all this. Because I know if I didn't pay my taxes, if I was short of my taxes or something like that, I would have the IRS at my door. But it's crazy to think that this guy was a billionaire. They can't figure out for the life of them how this guy made their money. How about put a fucking team of accountants on it? How about put your greatest IRS agents on it? How about put the guys who literally track down your single moms who missed $30 on their taxes and they want to collect it? Put those guys on it, because they're obviously so fucking good at their jobs. The corruption in our government by all the waste, fraud, and abuse by all the pedophiles, by AIPAC, by BlackRock. It needs to stop. It is literally running our government. We don't have a two-party system. We have a uniparty system that divides us on 15% of the issues and act like they're so against each other and everything. But if they were so against each other and everything, the same three things wouldn't fund both sides of the aisle. Like I said, BlackRock, AIPAC, and pedophiles fund 80% of both sides. They wouldn't fund both sides if they weren't working together. They're all working together. None of them have the American people's best interest in mind. None of them have what the founders wanted for us as their goals in America, besides very few, besides people like Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and what I thought Donald Trump had, but I guess that kind of ended after Donald Trump started taking lobbying money. Donald Trump, like we talked about, when he was self-funded, was just a lot better of a politician. He said, America is going to be put first in every way. We're going to stop importing laborers. We're going to bring value back to the American dollar, and we're going to make it mean something to be an American again. We're actually going to bring value back to American culture and wanting to uphold the Constitution and wanting to put Americans first, no new wars, no lifelong foreign affairs. But again, all that went away. It just did not matter anymore. It just did not matter anymore after Donald Trump took millions from Miriam Adelson, from Elon Musk, and from other AIPAC individuals. I really hope that we do get more information, but like I've said over the last week, we're not getting any more information. The only other possible information we'll get is a Ghislaine testimony, which would be all bullshit. But I don't think she'll actually make it to testify. I think she will be killed on the way in. She'll be hanging in her cell in the next few days. She'll be choking on her food or dying of a heart attack or slipping, falling in the shower, or like maybe Santa Claus rapes her. Like, I don't know what it is, but something terrible is going to happen that's going to prevent her from getting to trial, and that's going to be the end of it. They're not going to give us any answers on Ghislaine. They're not going to give us any answers on Epstein. They're going to be these pedophiles roaming the world until they die, and then maybe in like 80 years or something, after everyone's dead, we'll get something. But who fucking cares at that point? I'll be dead hopefully in 80 years. I mean, it's just so sad. I hate that they're trying to turn this into another conspiracy. Like, we've talked about all these conspiracies today. We've talked about Snowden with the Patriot Act. We talked about the Vegas shooting in Benghazi and the 9/11 passports and JFK. But I really think that this is the biggest of them all. I mean, like, obviously, with JFK, it was a president getting shot. It's extremely tragic. With 9/11, there's over 3,000 deaths. So it's like, it's very hard to say that this is worse than that. And especially as someone who grew up around 9/11 and saw, the effects of kids growing up without parents. But to think that thousands of children were raped by these high-profile billionaires, and there are probably hundreds of kids, if not thousands, who are still walking this earth, who have to live with this the rest of their lives, seeing these people on TV, seeing them in politics, seeing them in movies, maybe hearing their music, whatever it is. Like, that's terrible. That's not what America is, and I want to revolt against that. Like Tucker Carlson said, it's not a crazy idea to say revolt, and people want to paint you out to be like an insurrectionist or the worst kind of person in the world. Like, you're a J6er if you want to revolt. But this country was founded on the idea that we have not just the right, but the duty to revolt against a corrupt government. And I've never seen a government more corrupt than this. And if our government continues to push this corruption, continues to make it seem like they're going to protect pedophiles, put other nations over America, devalue our dollar, and lessen American jobs by importing the next labor class, why the fuck wouldn't we revolt? Why wouldn't we stand up against that? Why wouldn't we push for a system that actually benefits the American people? We have talked about why, importing the next American working class is so bad for America. We need a full stop on legal and illegal immigration. It's not just them taking the illegals and making them legal citizens so they can work, but it's allowing legal citizens to come into work in the first place. We don't need to replace the entire tech industry with India. It is not necessary, and it is just importing cheap labor so big corporations can have higher profit margins. The only people who benefit off legal or illegal immigration are the government who uses them as pawns and the corporations who abuse their slave labor. These aren't things I'm willing to accept. These are things I want to overturn, and I want to see the release of these files, but we'll never get them. All we're going to get is more we're gonna get more cover-ups. We're gonna get, I'm sure over the next 2 weeks, we'll get, like, something really big from the Trump administration. Whenever like, any political scandal happens, especially one like this, like, huge fuck up, like, there's always something, they give a little back to you, make some people forget, like stimulus checks or, like, when they locked us indoors and, like, things like that. We're gonna see something over the next few weeks happen, uh, that benefits the American people heavily. And it's not going to be something that's honestly intentioned. It's going to be something to try and continuously cover this up, push it back further and further in the news. But like I said, it's not going to happen because conservatives aren't liberals. Liberals just ignored all of Joe Biden's everything he did wrong, everything he did illegal, everything his family did illegal. They allowed him to pardon his family. They allowed him to pardon all his friends. They allowed him to pardon Fauci. They allowed him to run the country when he had dementia, if he was even running the country. And his voter base said nothing about it. They supported it. They loved him through it. And when conservatives are seeing something they don't like from Trump, you saw a lot of people stand up against the Israel Iran conflict. And now you're seeing more than half the base stand up against this. You're seeing a complete divide within the MAGA movement where we're all saying, yes, I do think Trump could be a net benefit to the country in a lot of ways. He is trying to do a lot of good things regarding immigration, and he got the ICE bill passed and things like that. But it in no way, is okay to protect a pedophile. And I have no reason to protect a pedophile. My soul is not for sale. God's children are not for sale. And if I was to find out that Trump was involved in this, or that Trump is actively covering this up and it's not Pam Bondi or someone around him, yes, I have no problem speaking out against Trump the way I am right now and the way I've been speaking out against him for the last week. It's the biggest difference between Democrats and Republicans, biggest difference between it's also a big difference between older generations and younger generations. You see a lot of older generations, like, yes, a lot of them care about this, but the people my age really give a shit about this. They are really upset about this. They are really turning against the Israel lobby. You have never seen more people in this country turn against the Israel lobby than you have right now. And there are so many people, specifically like the ADL, the ex-prime minister of Israel and things like that, who are like, oh, this is so anti-Semitic. It's Jewish hate going around. But no, yes, there might be some anti-Semitical people, but in general, this isn't anti-Semitism. It's just not wanting a foreign government and a foreign nation and a foreign intel agency to run our country. It's not wanting them to run pedophile blackmail operations on our soil and within our country, and to try and extort people in our country and try and involve people in our country in these things. These are terrible, grotesque, disgusting things that if the Israel government knew about and if the Israel intelligence agencies were running, that we should be going to war with them over it, not sending them $3.8 billion in air support every fucking year over it. Why are we supporting all their regime change wars, allowing them to build nukes when they weren't supposed to, taking out our president, taking out the USS Liberty, killing American soldiers, and we're not allowed to talk about them negatively without being called anti-Semites. I've spoke negatively about Israel consistently over the last month because they have not helped the United States in any way over the last month. They've only put us in worse and worse situations regarding this Iran conflict, and definitely now regarding everything with Epstein. We are literally seeing the cover-up of the biggest political scandal in real time, and the most likely scenario is that the files either are being covered up. In my mind, the most likely scenario is the files are either being covered up by Donald Trump because he's implicated, or Israel is just not letting them go. And it's maybe not Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu specifically, possibly is, but it's Mossad. It's the head of Mossad. It's whoever is still in Mossad who is covering for Ghislaine, covering for Epstein, covering for Leon Black and Ehud Barak, and all these people who were obviously had intelligence connections, who were molesting children, who were laundering money, who were secret billionaires who no one can explain how they got their money. One thing I really want everyone to do, and it's something I started doing, you could look up Ehud Barak's, and you can look up you can look up Ghislaine Maxwell's mailing address. You can look up Leon Black's mailing. You can look up all these people's mailing addresses. I want everyone to write them letters, asking them about their ventures into pedophilia. Don't ask them about the actual fucking of kids, is not what I mean, but ask them about why was this covered up? Who covered it up? At this point, Ghislaine seems to have nothing to lose. You might get some information from Leon or Ehud in their old age. Most likely not. Most likely you'll just get a visit from a Secret Service or an intel agency. But it would be interesting. I'm writing letters to all three, and I urge everyone to write letters to all three, asking them about who was covering up, what their involvement was, and for their full story on it. And again, they most likely will not answer, but I'm sending them the same letter 5 times a day, hoping that eventually they will answer. Because I'm so pissed that we have people in this nation and our media defending it. I'm so pissed that the conservative movement is now split up because of this. I'm so pissed that we had someone literally raping children and infiltrating United States politicians and figures in it. I'm so upset that the country who is allowing it to happen and the intel agency allowing it to happen is our so-called greatest ally. I don't think of them that way at all. I think of them as a country who eats $3.8 billion of our tax dollars and has now implicated us in one of the biggest political scandals in history, and it implicated what was one of the most honest presidents at a time in history into one of the biggest political scandals. We saw Trump, like I said, go from self-funded, completely honest interests of the American people, who's now funded by Israel, AIPAC, pedophiles, and Elon Musk, to then shut this entire thing down, and that's a problem. That is the problem going on in this country, and it is going to continue to be a problem as long as we don't root these lobbyists and root these people out of our systems. If we don't root our foreign affairs out, the bad ones, we're going to continue seeing this. I bet there will be another big scandal like this, and maybe it's not pedophilia, maybe it's something else, maybe it's not on an island, whatever it is. We are going to see another big political scandal as long as we have lobbying in there, because you're always going to have people who are not having the interests of the American people in mind. Lobbyists don't have the interests of the American people in mind. They have the interests of the people that are the group they're lobbying for, and there's not American citizen lobbyists. There are lobbyists for Israel, there are lobbyists for guns and Christian rights and Jewish rights and Muslim rights and women and men, and there's lobbyists for every fucking thing you could ever think of. There's lobbyists for things you could probably never think of. There's lobbyists for lobbying. There's lobbyists for literally fucking everything. And it's the most corrupt industry. It's legal bribery within our government. They allow it to happen, and they're not going to stop it. So why should we as the American people put up with it? Why shouldn't we listen to Tucker Carlson and Revolt? Why should we put up with a government who is willing to allow companies to rip us off and essentially rape us with interest rates and things like that when it comes to student loans and credit card fees and rent raises and the real estate market in general? Why should we allow them to cover up pedophilia? Why should we allow them to cover up the murder of a president? Why should we allow them to cover up the murder of 3,000 Americans? Why should we allow them to possibly cover up what would have happened in Benghazi or the 50-something people who were shot and killed or shot in Vegas? These are all things that our government covers up, and they want to call us conspiracy theorists for talking about, but that's when you know your government has lost the interest of the American people. When they're calling you a conspiracy theorist, when you have overwhelming evidence to show that your government is guilty, that's when you need to revolt and stand up and replace your government. And that's what the American people need to do soon. The American people need to collectively come together. It can't just be 10 to 50 or 100 people. We need millions of people to come together and collectively decide, hey, we're not going to pay our credit cards, or we're not going to pay our student loans, or we're not going to pay taxes, or we are not going to do this, or we're all going to show up with guns one day, or we're going to, whatever it is. We need, as the American people, to realize that the power is in our hands. There are 360 plus million of us. If we stand up together, if we literally decide as a group, not even all of us, just millions of us, if we can get a few million together to decide, hey, we're not going to pay taxes. We're not going to put up with these interest rates for this. We're not going to do this. Force their fucking hand. Watch a bank CEO have to cry on TV as his bank crumbles to the ground because everyone stops paying. Watch the government collapse because we don't pay taxes, and watch them start kissing our ass and handing over the Jeffrey Epstein information because we refuse to pay taxes until they do. Watch them realize that they work for us when we force their hands. We pay every fucking one of their salaries. We pay for every car they take, every meal they eat, every eye drop they put in their fucking eyes, and drop of toothpaste they put on their toothbrush is paid for by you and me, the fucking American taxpayer. So it should piss you off the same way it pisses me off that these people are trying to fuck us. They are trying to extort us. They are trying to change our way of life, not make it an American way of life. They're trying to lie. They're trying to literally push propaganda down our throats that our government has our best interests in mind and that we should just shut the fuck up and accept it. But it is not true anymore. It hasn't been true for a very long time. Our government does not have our best interests, and we need to do something about it. The American people need to fix this. It is the role of the American people to fix your government when it is corrupted. And it is time for us to do that. It is time for groups to get together and not violently, but collectively decide on actions they can take to squeeze the government out of revenue, to squeeze the government in the same way they squeeze us. They can't say, oh, like, what? You're just revolting. No, you literally protected pedophiles. You openly protected pedophiles. You were pushing Americans to do this. You were pushing them to revolt. You created a generation that can't afford to have families and houses, and you expect them to just be okay with it. You created a generation of wage slaves and a generation of people who literally can't pick their heads up out of a fucking iPad because all they knew for years when they were a child, when they weren't in school because of COVID and you stopped people going to school, that's all they know is just looking at a fucking iPad. The government has created so many terrible things that are currently happening in our society that will only continue to get worse if the American people don't stand up against it. These are the problems I talk about every day on this show. And the problems I'm going to continue to talk about. If we don't fix these things, then why do we call ourselves Americans? Why would we call ourselves, the land of the free because of the brave and the greatest country to ever exist if we don't fucking act like it? We need men to act like men. We need patriots to act like patriots. And we need people and Democrats and Republicans to come together for once. We need people to understand that American nationalism is the answer to this. American nationalism isn't far right. It's not far left. It's very extreme middle. It's what our founders wanted for us. They wanted us to preserve what this nation should be, that the power should be in the people's hands, that everything the government does should benefit the people, not the government. It should be in the interest of the people, not of foreign nations, not of the government, not of the representatives, but of the people they are representing. Everything they do, every dollar they spend needs to be in. It needs to help us out. It needs to benefit us, because what is the point of wasting our dollars on other countries that can fix themselves? What is the point of funding things that are like when we were funding studies to see which quails would want to have sex with each other with what alcohols? Like who benefited? Like what group benefited from that at all? I don't understand. I don't understand this like pushback against wanting to stop waste, fraud, and abuse. This pushback against wanting to just rebuild American values and rebuild what this country was founded on. There should be no pushback that this country's government should benefit the citizens of the country before it benefits other countries and other countries' citizens. Like, why should the American government benefit Israel, Mossad, Mexico, and Canada before it benefits the United States citizens? Why should it benefit every fucking other person in the world before it benefits United States citizens? Because that's what our tax dollars have been doing for years. I want to just recap what we've talked about today, then I want to go on to final stuff for the day. We've talked about how conservatives and liberals handle these things differently, how liberals have consistently defended Joe Biden through all of his worst mistakes, while conservatives have been speaking out against Donald Trump. And yes, it's not the entire MAGA movement, but you see a majority almost of the conservative movement speaking out against this. And the only reason liberals even want this to be, like, that they're even happy about this, or I don't even know what you want to call it, is because they think Trump's on the list and they think it's a win for them. But it's a loss for America that we're not getting these answers. We talked about the Student Action Summit. We talked about how Charlie Kirk, Megyn Kelly, and Tucker Carlson all spoke out against Israel. Tucker, obviously, the most openly. Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk, it was literally like they were dancing around talking about it. It was almost kind of funny to watch. I urge everyone to watch all those. We talked about how people from the Daily Wire, like Matt Walsh, is speaking out against Trump with this, and he's speaking out how we want the Epstein files, while Ben Shapiro is being a little bitch about it. While Ben Shapiro is saying that, no, this was just a conspiracy all along, and you guys are conspiracy theorists. We talked about how we should not just trust Pam Bondi and Donald Trump, even though they're telling us we should just trust them. Like, literally, Donald Trump, I forgot to talk about this, but Donald Trump sent out, like, multiple Truth Social and tweets that said, like, guys, just stop talking about Epstein. We need to stop talking about Epstein and move on from it. You guys need to trust Pam Bondi. She's doing great work. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I named all those conspiracy theories and I named all the things where they're like, yeah, just trust the reports, just trust this. It's like, if we just trusted them then, we would be just as dumb as the people now who are trusting it. It makes no sense. We should not be trusting our government at all costs. We should barely trust them as it is. Our government has always been corrupt. It doesn't matter who's in office. As long as they're taking money from lobbyists, you can't trust that what they're saying is even their own idea. Pam Bondi and Donald Trump saying stop talking about Epstein is literally like saying, hey, we're guilty of everything involving Epstein. The fact that the video was edited 3 times on Adobe Premiere fucking Pro, like, I use better editing software than that for this, like, for this shitty podcast. They fucking use Adobe Premiere Pro to edit it and save it 4 different times and stitch 2 different clips together to make that. And there's no, like, they don't come out and talk about that, even though they've literally, it's been proven by the metadata that that's what happened. But no, so apparently we're just supposed to trust Pam Bondi, trust Donald Trump, and the whole administration that they're telling us the truth about all this. They're trying to distract us with the Biden auto pen, and they're trying to say that Ghislaine might step foot into the congressional hall to testify on this. Like I said, Ghislaine, the bitch is Mossad. Like, she is not going to tell the truth if she gets in there. And if she doesn't get in there, she's going to be hanging in her fucking cell or dying of a heart attack or some mysterious thing. And there will be no answers. But if she does make it in there, know she's running the operation. And if she doesn't, just know she was just as much of a pawn as Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to get the answer on that obviously next week, it seems like. But she's either going to kill herself or testify. And they both give us answers, but neither are going to give us the truth. Neither of us are going to, like, if she kills herself, we'll never get the full truth. And if she testifies, we can assume the truth is fairly opposite of what she's saying, but it will be hard to decipher what's truth and what's not if she gives names. She could be, like I said, implicating innocent people or trying to do vice versa. It could go really poorly to allow a Mossad agent to testify in front of Congress when we have no idea what lengths this Mossad agent will go to protect Mossad, to protect Israel, when we see the prime minister of Israel, who obviously knew Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine, is literally tweeting out that they weren't Mossad. He's trying to protect them in real time on X. Netanyahu doing the same thing. So it makes no sense that more people in our government aren't questioning this the way Americans are. Like, the evidence is so fucking overwhelming. Anybody in their right mind could close this case, could show that this person, Epstein, that Ghislaine, that all these people are connected to Mossad and these intel agencies. I'm just so disappointed. Those are the topics we talked about today. It was a pretty good episode, I think. I don't know. I want to hear what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, but leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think, or if you have any questions. Send a super chat, leave a comment about it, whatever it is. I do want to check to see if there was any more headlines that popped up while we were filming this episode. I've been doing that over the last week, and we've actually got some pretty good stuff on it. We got some pretty good stuff actually on the Epstein list last week when we did it. So let's see real quick. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like there's a ton. Trump is trying to remove Powell as Fed chair, but we've been talking about that. Too slow, Jerome. He probably should have dropped the rates by now, but again, like, talking about stuff like that just seems pointless when there's way bigger things happening. Let's see. Supreme Court sides with Donald Trump today to give the green light to continue the massive purge of the Department of Education. Nearly 1.5 employees will now be laid off. More drastic cuts will be on the way. This is a pretty big win for conservatives and for the America First movement. The Department of Education has been pushing woke identity politics, has been essentially ruining the education of children. We have kids at unprecedented rates who cannot read and write in schools right now. It is actually embarrassing that the more money we've spent on children's education, the worse they've gotten at it. And it's not because we're spending money, it's because we're applying the money in the wrong ways. The wrong people are getting it. We have too many pointless administrators in school. We're pushing the wrong things. We're not educating on the right things. And there's a reason that we're so behind in numbers from where we used to be in the world when it comes to math, science, reading, writing, just all the subjects we lack on compared to the rest of the world. We do not rank high in, and we used to actually rank a lot higher. So we need to get that back. We need to actually bring education back to the states, make education worth it again. We need to open school choice as well. Florida did that, and you saw education numbers get way better. It's now one of the top 5 states for education in the entire country. School choice is a big reason of that. You should make schools have to stand up on their own, and the shitty schools shouldn't have to be filled with kids just because the kids live near that school. Parents should be able to decide that they want to take their kids to a better public school that's nearby, even if it's not the closest one, forcing the shittier schools to actually do better if they want to maintain people and maintain the ability to stay open as a school. But a lot of schools had to close down in Florida because they were bad schools. And you saw a huge rise in the education numbers, reading, math, writing, history, science, like literally everything. Those test scores rose after school choice was changed in Florida, and people were able to pick better schools, get better educations. And we saw teachers who were tenured, who weren't teaching correctly. We saw poor administrators. We saw them all get laid off. So these were huge wins for the American people in Florida, and we're now going to see, it looks like, more cuts of that after this Supreme Court hearing that they decided with Trump on. So that's a win for Trump. I'll give him that one right there. Let's see if we got anything else on the news today. Apparently Charlie Kirk says on his show today that he's done talking about Epstein after this, that he is just going to, like, if new info comes out, he'll talk about it, but he's just going to trust Dan, Cash, and Pam Bondi at this point. Which, stop fucking selling out, dude. Come on. Like, I just talked highly about you a second ago, saying that you were speaking out against it. Now you're saying out. Roger Stone is saying that the Clintons are in full-blown panic as Ghislaine is being called to testify. Like I said, it doesn't fucking matter if Ghislaine testifies. She's either going to give a full-on bullshit-ass spiel that's going to be all lies, or she will get fucking hanged in her cell. She's most likely not making it to that trial. Like, just doesn't make sense. They killed Epstein, like, in a they've killed so many people in various very obvious ways, and it would obviously be, like, really suspicious if Ghislaine was to just be hanging in her fucking cell next week. But, like, what do they care about being subtle at this point? They haven't been subtle yet. It's not like they were subtle when they were fucking kids, or subtle about, like, hiding it. They weren't subtle about the fact that they filmed it all, or the fact that there's not a paper trail, but like I said, I was able to track transactions between Leon Black and Epstein, and Wexner and Epstein, and Ghislaine and Epstein, and Carbine 911, and Peter Thiel and Epstein, and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Like, the amount of connections that are just right in front of our fucking eyes are, like I said, pretty overwhelming. There's not a ton. Let me go on, like, I don't know, that's just me just refreshing X. Let's go on an actual news site. Let's see if we got anything. Yeah, I mean, nothing. Yeah, I mean, that's really kind of all there is on new information today. It's been, like, outside of the Epstein stuff, kind of a slow week, or slow last week and a half. Like, not a ton has happened. We have actually got more bad information than good information over that time. Like we talked about, we're sending more weapons to Ukraine. We are bringing more HB1 visas in, replacing American workers. But we're not calling it amnesty, though, because that's not what we voted for. But they're going to call it something else and act like it's not happening. We saw the cover-up of Epstein. I don't know. I mean, we haven't had many good things happen over the last 2 weeks. And I don't know what's happening with my throat today. Literally, as I'm filming this, I never drink a ton of water on the show. I've almost drank the whole bottle. My throat is killing me today. I don't know what's going on. I feel like over the last couple weeks doing the show, it's gotten, like, I feel like it's gotten better. When I was doing the show in the beginning, I more just wanted to push the Republican agenda, push the daily news. I would give opinions on things, but I would really just give the news what was happening. And the more I've learned about politics, about what runs politics, about corruption, like I always knew a lot about, like I was well informed about politics, but I wasn't informed about lobbying. I wasn't as informed about some of the foreign relation things. And as I've learned more and more information about it, I feel like I get better at this show. One of the biggest things with this show for me is like just being comfortable on camera. I hate being on camera. I always have. And I'm getting more used to it, but, like, even, like, now, like, it still feels weird, like, my whole personality doesn't really come out, and more over time, you'll start to see my personality, like, you see it creeping its way in there in episodes when I'm laughing and I'm making jokes, and, like, I don't know, I have a dark sense of humor, you guys could probably tell. I'm not, like, shy about my words or the topics I talk about. And you'll see that creep in more and more over time into these episodes as I get more comfortable being on camera. Like, I've been doing this for 6 months. I haven't even made 100 episodes. Hopefully, in another 6 months or like a year from now, I'll be a lot more comfortable on camera. I hope to only make these shows more entertaining. I think my episodes over the last couple weeks have been more entertaining than my episodes for the first 4 months. I feel like they were pretty consistent how they were the first few months. Like I kept a very similar, style each episode. And then over the last few weeks, I've really changed that up, how I talked about topics. The show's called America Unfiltered, but I really don't think it actually was unfiltered until like a month or a few months, like 2 months ago, really. I was pretty shy to talk about a lot of things. And still, like I said, it's not like I'm shy to talk about specific topics. I'm like camera shy. My full personality definitely doesn't make its way onto the screen because I don't know. I get nervous to make jokes. Like I said, I have a dark sense of humor. I'm like Tim Dillon. I don't know, for anyone who doesn't get that, go watch his stuff. He's hilarious, but he's political. He makes comedic jokes. I'm not as funny as him. I'm just saying my sense of humor is his. I like stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, but I love this country. I don't know, I talk a lot about how, like, they do limit our free speech, they limit people's ability to talk on, like, certain social media platforms, but we do really have free speech in a lot of ways and a lot more than a lot of other countries, like, in the UK and things like that, you really don't have free speech, you can get in trouble for bullying in social media posts. I remember when they did that, I started tweeting out to different, like, British police accounts, like, "Fuck you guys, like, you're a bunch of pussies." Because, like, what are they gonna do? Come here and arrest me? Like, fuck you guys. We beat you in a war once. Come back. We'll do it again. Fuck the British. I literally cannot stand those people. But it's not like British people. It's just like the British government and like the fact that they were tweeting back at people in America like, "Oh, we're gonna hold you accountable and arrest you." It's like, dude, fuck off. Like, literally, go cry. You guys suck. Like, you don't have free speech. You guys don't even have guns. You are just a shit nation, essentially. And, like, to all the people in America, too, who you don't need to own a gun. Like, it's not like a necessity that everyone in America owns a gun. Although you should. No matter what your stance is, you should. But it's like, it's crazy to me that people don't. It's crazy to me that people, like, are like, no, it's, like, crazy to think to own a gun. It's like, you can buy a safe that you and only you know the passcode to, and no one else in your house, none of your kids can get into it. You could put it in a place where no one could get to it. It could have, steel reinforced locks on the safe. It could be as safe as can be. You could have a gun range membership where you train yourself to be an accurate shooter, be a responsible gun owner. There are many ways to make it possible to have guns, and the amount of excuses some people come up with to not own a gun is crazy to me. Why would you ever want to be in a situation where you don't have the upper hand? Why would you ever be in and if you could say like, oh, no one's ever going to break in my house. I've been alive for 50 years. No one's ever done it. Doesn't matter. Someone could do it tonight. Someone could do it in a year. Someone could do it in 20 years. And if someone breaks in your house and they're ready to rob you and possibly kill you, why wouldn't you want to be armed? Why wouldn't you want to be able to protect your wife, protect yourself, protect your kids, or protect whoever's in the house? Even just your dogs. If someone came in my house, yeah, I'm protecting myself, but I'm going to protect my dogs too. That person's not going to make an inch past the door frame before they get lit up. Like, this is Florida. We have the right to defend our houses the same way in America because of the castle doctrine. You have your right to defend your house. Every single American has that right, no matter what your government in your state wants to tell you. The castle doctrine makes it legal. And yes, there are limitations to when and where you can and can't shoot these people if they're breaking in, if you can shoot them like in the back if they're running away versus not. etc. A lot of different laws you should understand and know, but that's where going to the gun range and memberships, that's where all that comes in, and you learn that. But more people in this country should own guns, and it's surprising to me they don't. We have 400 something million privately owned registered guns, and that's just registered. There are way more unregistered guns than registered guns in this country because states like Florida, Texas, some of your biggest gun owning states around the entire country, you don't have to register your guns. And I know people who own hundreds of guns. Like, I literally know a guy who owns hundreds of guns, full on, he's more armed than most small nations. And he doesn't have one registered because he doesn't have to. He bought someone's entire collection after they passed away, and then he bought another guy's entire collection after they passed away. And he's gone to different gun shows around the state of Florida, and he's picked up more and more purchases. And this guy has essentially built an entire armory. He doesn't go out and use a ton of them besides just like shooting around on his farm and things like that. But it just goes to show you that there are way more guns than there are people in this country. And when it comes to private citizens, we hold more guns than the rest of the entire world combined. So when people say we don't have the ability to stand up to our government, that it would not be possible, that drone strikes and military and all that would make it impossible, yes, it would be very hard, and they would be able to take out large parts and groups of people, but we would also be able to get to them. The overwhelming force from the American people and also from the American military, because they would protect against enemies foreign and domestic. If you have millions of Americans revolting for the correct reasons, like pedophilia in our government, you're not going to have the military mowing down American citizens over that. You're going to have the military siding with the American people, because the enemies, foreign and domestic, would be the foreign governments who are infiltrating our society, and the domestic ones would be the politicians protecting them. We need to understand this. We need to understand that we hold the power. I've talked about this before, but people don't realize it. We do hold the power in this country. We could literally change the course of this country forever by just not voting in one election or not paying taxes one year, or, if everyone decided to not pay their credit card interest or their student loan interest and they shut the banks down. We could literally change the course of the entire world and the United States forever in 1 year, and all it takes is the American people standing together and standing up for something collectively. And one of the, the hardest part about that is the fact that it will just get infiltrated. The same way January 6th, it came together pretty quickly. They were going to march it down to the Capitol, protest the election. 26 undercover FBI agents were there, and you saw multiple of them who were let go without charges, even though they were on video shown to rip apart the barriers. They were shown to be attacking police officers and pushing people and trapping people to do crimes that they normally would not commit. We can stand up to our government. We just have to do it collectively. You can't have a few hundred people like you had at January 6th. You can't have a few thousand. You need millions. You need millions of people. And again, I'm not even saying violently. You just need millions of people to collectively decide that they're not going to pay taxes, they're not going to vote, or they're not going to pay their credit card debt. Or they're not going to pay their property taxes, or something where it makes it impossible for the government to collect. I actually kind of like the property tax idea. But any of those ideas would pretty much work. It would send a message to the government. It would force their hand to change things. And again, if we didn't vote, it would be one of the best ones too. Showing them that we're not going to why would we put any of them in office? Fuck them. It is literally so corrupt that what's happening is happening, and that it's being allowed to happen by the highest ranking people in our government and around the world. We need to stop that. I don't know. I feel very upset about the situation. As you guys can tell, this is day 6 of me fucking talking about it. But every time there's more updates, I gotta talk about it. And it's a hard topic to talk about quickly, but Ghislaine Maxwell literally is going to possibly be testifying. So she'll either be lying in front of Congress to all our eyes and ears, or she will be hanging in her cell next week. And somehow neither is better than the other. I don't know. I get all last week I was making the free Ghislaine jokes and all that, but it sucks. This is sad to see. It's really sad to see the fall of America, the fall of politics, and the fall of Donald Trump. I really did, I liked a lot of things Donald Trump did, and I don't know, it just seems he's turning. But okay, this is fucking dumb. This is the stuff that pisses me off. Lead-in report now just tweeted Like, I thought I was done looking at the news, but then I just got a notification. Leading report is now tweeting that Trump administration will be releasing more evidence related to the Jeffrey Epstein case and offer greater transparency. Go fuck yourself. Like, you literally pulled together a fake video, and now I'm supposed to trust you that you're bringing together more evidence? You had all this time to put together the evidence, and then you literally tweeted, stop talking about Epstein after you released evidence, and we called it bullshit. Like, what the fuck is going on with these people? Who do they think they are? It's just... Let's see. Okay, this is another breaking thing. My God, yeah, the Trump administration, the Trump's DOJ, Department of Justice, is responding to Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal for retrial, saying that it should be denied. So they haven't officially denied it yet. They have to make a decision, I guess, within the next few days, but it looks like they're about to deny it. I mean, what the fuck is, like, this is so absurd. So they're going to deny her to testify. They're saying that they're going to release more info after saying they didn't have more info. Can they fucking stop contradicting themselves? Like, the history of them contradicting themselves from saying it's on my desk to then it didn't exist to he was fucking high profile, or like these high profile people were fucking these kids, to like, no, it was just Jeffrey Epstein loading up on child porn on his computer, to we don't have any more information, to now we're going to release it, to like, you know, America does support the truth, to now we're not going to let Ghislaine Maxwell testify, which, like I said, she most likely would be lying, but like, you can't just not let her fucking testify. Like, at least let her do it, you know? Like, if you're not going to let her do it, then just do it. We already know what you're going to do and fucking hang her in her cell already. Not that I'm calling for that, but we all know that's what's going to happen. She's either going to testify and lie or hang herself in her cell, and they're going to call it a suicide, but it will be whatever guy fucking killed Jeffrey Epstein, or whatever group killed Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, I don't really have much more today based, you know, this is, I'm looking, that's kind of all the new news. I'm glad I looked again, because that leading report thing that popped up that said that they're going to release more info, because even though they most likely won't, it's just still crazy to see that they're going back on their word. Again, I want to talk about our book of the week. This isn't the book I'm actually reading this week, because the book I'm reading this week is an audiobook. But I can't just play an audiobook here. So we're going to talk about a book I've read before, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. It's Matthew Perry's, it is his autobiography. It is very sad. I mean, I shouldn't be laughing as I'm saying it. It's actually tremendously sad. He wrote it before he died. And it's really like, I mean, it tells a beautiful part of his life and like becoming successful, but it's really just like him talking about his addiction to drugs, weight things, and his just undying love for Jennifer Aniston. But the book is really good. It's an emotional book. It's a book that will make you laugh. It's a book that, you know, will make you feel an entire range of emotions. There's a lot of different books I like to recommend. Most of the books I read are historical, nonfiction, autobiographies, things like that. Out of the autobiographies, this is definitely one of the less serious ones when it comes to like how it impacts the world. You know, he's not a political figure. He was an actor on Friends, but he is someone that we all knew, saw on TV growing up, and still do watch on TV even after he's passed. He is someone that, you know, in a positive way at one point has made us all laugh, and I think it is a really good book, and it does give a really interesting perspective from a guy who I think was one of the least corrupted people in Hollywood, and one of the people who really actually cared about the people around him. Again, God rest his soul. I pray for his soul and his family, but I really recommend this book to everybody. Like I said, it's a sad book, but it's one that I would recommend to everyone. And we're going to continue to recommend different books each week on the show. We'll do our book of the week, but this is our book of the week right here. I'm James Pascalides. This has been episode 88 of America Unfiltered, I think. I'm signing off. I hope you guys have a blessed day. If you are Ghislaine Maxwell, fingers crossed you don't fucking die hanged in your cell, even though it's probably going to happen to you. But I do want to see you testify, even though I know you're going to lie. But I'm James Pascalides. I hope you guys have a blessed day. I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully with some better news, because this last week has just been all bad news. Thank you so much. See you guys.